Maybe that's it. Someone else owns the trademark to Impact, and they're like, it's coming up, and they're like, we don't want to pay that guy. We can use this money to buy CM Punk. He'll love TNA again.
Well, okay, so that's the other thing about TNA that I wanted to talk about, and so that was an unforced segue. I feel
Nice.
an unforced segue. So CM Punk was backstage at Bound for Glory, and this is the second time that he's gone backstage to Impact, formerly known as and will be known as TNA Wrestling again. Um, so we've talked about this before. Is it possible that CM Punk ends up doing something with TNA Wrestling?
Yeah.
Billy Corgan also made a public statement about the idea of CM Punk coming to the NWA. And he basically said a lot of what we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where he basically said, I don't have the money to pay you what you're worth.
Yep.
But if you want to come and have fun with pro wrestling and perform pro wrestling the way you think it should be performed, come on over to the NWA.
I actually kind of thought an NWA run would be a good fit for Punk.
Yeah.
Because, and he could say he's friends with Billy Corgan because he loves to say he's friends with people in the music business. And, like, he wouldn't have to do it for long.
So apparently him and Corgan do get along. Like, they're not, like, friends or whatever. And Corgan said, hey, I haven't reached out or anything because, like, I don't, like, in fairness, he doesn't have a great pitch. I can't pay you what you're worth is the first line. So it's usually the end of the discussion in most cases, right? So, but so apparently Corgan and Punk, like, I don't know how often they've met or whatever, but they appear to get along. Punk is very respectful of old NWA wrestling, like Harley Race, Terry Funk, that kind of stuff. So is Billy Corgan. Billy Corgan, for whatever you want to say about putting the title on Tyrus, he has
that was a thumbs down for the people with visual impairment.
With all other champions that have been under the Billy Corgan era of NWA, I think they've been very good. Nick Aldis, I thought was a tremendous champion. I thought that whole feud he did with Trevor Murdoch and how it in many ways mirrored Dusty Rhodes' Ric Flair. I thought that was tremendous. I really enjoyed that a lot. So the NWA has done some very good things. If Punk does want to just come have fun, maybe he does just show up to the NWA. And I'm sure Impact Wrestling's offer to, like, I'm sure they've said something like, hey, what would it take to bring you in here? I'm sure they've said, look, this is the max we could do.
Yeah. It'd be irresponsible not to like see that through.
Yeah.
To at least just check, even if you don't really have much of an intention of bringing him in, you want to know,
That's this weird thing that Punk's been in for a bunch of his career, is that he like remember when he fought in the UFC
when he was in the ring a couple times in the UFC.
I sure was.
He was there.
His idea was, look, I like MMA. I want to go train in it and go compete in it. But what's he going to do? He's CM Punk. He can't just go to some, like, if he's like, all right, I'm going to sign on with Cage Warriors or some local promotion, like, that promotion then earns all this money. They're like, it's this weird thing where, like, he's like, well, I have to just do my amateur or like the start to my pro career in the UFC. And obviously it didn't work out well for him. And now he's in a spot where, like, he again, his options for where to go can't afford them. So he's gonna have to take a pay cut if he wants to continue wrestling.
And I think it's a lot less about money and more about, like, how he'll be treated too. And in that case, then I think that the NWA is a good fit for him. But I digress. The other guy TNA is thinking of bringing, though, is Will Ospreay.
Yeah, so they basically, in a Sports Illustrated article, were like, yeah, we'd move mountains to try and get Will Ospreay here. So it was just kind of interesting because I don't think anybody believes that Will Ospreay is going to sign with Impact Wrestling. He's like, Will Ospreay is going to get a huge money contract in February, whether it's from WWE or AEW. Like, he knows very well that this next free agency, this is the biggest amount of money he's ever going to get. And, well, I mean, depending on where wrestling is in like 4 or 5 years, but he's in his prime. He's widely considered one of the best wrestlers in the world. He's at a point now where I don't think New Japan's going to be able to afford him. So he's signing with one of AEW or WWE. So I thought it was interesting that he did this whole article talking about how Impact Wrestling is in the mix. And I'm sure that's just to like let WWE or AEW know, like, hey, just letting you know, guys, like, I'm considering all options here. So,
and they're like, yeah, you are.
But he had a great match with Mike Bailey on the Bound for Glory pay-per-view. Mike Bailey's a guy who comes around here in Toronto quite a bit. And
from out here in Montreal.
Yeah, he's from Montreal. But he's fantastic. And they had a great match. But yeah. But I don't think Will Ospreay is going to TNA wrestling. But I think Punk might.
It'd be interesting to see if one of the smaller promotions like MLW and NWA and these kind of things would ever do a joint deal to sort of grow their own size.
Yeah,
not like a merger or amalgamation, but
like then you're committing Punk to 3
different
different promotions, and he probably doesn't want to work that much, right?
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about it in terms of CM Punk. I was just thinking like in general, like that'd be cool. But anyway, sorry.
Well, that's what you kind of looked at, like with like before AEW, and the Elite and stuff. Like you were wondering if like Ring of Honor and New Japan could combine to offer a deal that would match what WWE would offer. So it's not unheard of that something like that would happen. But I think very likely Ospreay will end up in AEW.
Yeah, it seems to.
I think they appreciate him. They'll see more value in him than WWE will, and I just think they'll.
Unfortunately, I feel like even under a Triple H regime, he's destined for the Ricochet slot.
Yeah, exactly.
Where he's just too talented to not be there, but also they're not really doing much to make us invested in him.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ricochet is going to do better now that it's Triple H. Especially
for sure.
Like they're building a feud with Ricochet and Nakamura on Raw, and I was like, okay, that sounds great.
That does sound great.
Let's go with that.